Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of 15 Good Minutes. As always, it's your guy, Coach B, and I am here with the A-Team, JR. How's your week going, man?
I'm doing great. It's going good so far, man. Just it's unexpected rain coming tomorrow. Not a good
I got
deal
no
for the
problem with
weekend.
the rain and the pollen that I got out here. I'll take a day of rain. I'm good with it, as long as it don't be all weekend long. Freddie, what's up, buddy?
Hey man, I'm good. I'm counting down the days to get on this plane.
There you go. You got a trip coming up. Good for you. I think we got an interesting couple of topics. So I'm just going to dive right into it, get you guys' opinion on a lot of things that's happened in the past week. We're going to be covering two of the major sports. So I'm going to start off with the NBA and in news stuff like what I call pressers and press conferences. So I'm going to tell you something that came up in the news this week relative to that sport, and I just want to get your opinion on it, right? So I'm going to start with you, Freddie. The first topic that I have is Dylan Brooks, right? So Dylan Brooks plays for the Grizzlies. Not too long ago, he talked an awful lot of smack to LeBron James of the Lakers, something to the effect like, I can't respect you until you put 40 on me, whatever. Basically, he gets his ass handed to him, and then he blames it on the media. It's y'all's fault. And now he doesn't go to press conferences after the game. Your thoughts on that?
I think he's an idiot. I mean, what Brian Windhorst, I think that's how you say his name.
Yeah.
Brian Windhorst says he's a diet Draymond Green. A diet Draymond Green, right? And I found that very funny. I just think that these young guys, I mean, LeBron doesn't have to give you, with the team that he has now, if they come to play, he don't have to give you 40. He can, but he doesn't have to. And, if he even hopes to have a career as long as LeBron James has had, I'm not saying that he should fear LeBron or any opponent he steps on the court with, but you should always respect your opponent, and especially someone that's as accomplished as LeBron James. And I'm not a LeBron James fan, but I can recognize greatness when I see it.
JR, Dylan Brooks, thoughts?
My thoughts. I think we spoke about this before, I think off air. Shut up until you do something. A lot of these young cats, they bring in the hood attitude with them still and have never been taught how to respect the game. You respect the game by respecting your elders, the people that came before you, that allow you to get these contracts. You understand? It used to be a time when basketball players, baseball players, and football players just played. You never won nothing. You know what I'm saying? Just shut up, play. That's all you got to do, So.
Yeah, I mean, I think collectively you guys pretty much said it best. The term that I was going to use, Freddie said, I was going to say he's a fool. Number one, what I think it takes a lot of audacity, because you really think that LeBron cares whether you respect him or not. Number one, to your point, JR, he knows that you haven't won anything. You know what I mean? And I think Richard Jefferson, I'm paraphrasing, I like his commentary on it. He didn't say, he didn't call him a coward, but he says very cowardice to come out and do all this yapping, and then don't go to the press conference when things don't go your way. And I liken it to, and JR, you can remember this, in our heyday on the teams that we coached, our signature was defense. We were frenetic. We were like the old VCU teams. We pressed you 94 feet all day long, and we won a lot. But when we lost, it was because other teams pressed us, meaning teams that press don't like to be pressed. Bullies don't like to be bullied. And I think with Dylan Brooks is just a lot of hot air, and I think ultimately, didn't he also get booted from a game for hitting LeBron in the groin? You know what I mean? And
yeah.
And I saw a highlight film a couple of days ago of collectively a lot of the things that he's done to other players. I'm not going to say he's a dirty player, but I'm going to agree with you guys. And I just think he's foolish, and I don't think that team will go far. I'm a little disappointed in Mr. Morant, because as a show of solidarity, now he's not doing post-game interviews either in support of the fool.
I thought there was a rule. Is that just in the NFL? Or?
No, it's not. It's still a rule, and they're taking the fine. So yeah, you get fined, because they basically now he's come out with all this. He wants to blame the media. So
take your medicine.
Speaking of that, let's stick with press conferences for a minute. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see. Well, let me back up. I think one of the bigger stories this week is the fact that a number 1 seed went down to a number 8 seed. But the press conference that Giannis did afterwards is garnering, it's becoming quite polarizing. And I'm paraphrasing this too. But in essence, a reporter asked him what I think is a fair question. Do you consider the season a failure? And Giannis went on a little bit of a rant saying that this is a sport and it's just a loss and you can't fail, et cetera, et cetera. And the NBA community at large is really split. Some people are like, yeah, because Giannis is a good kid. He's a good guy. And they're supporting him. But other players, people who have played the game, are saying, no, this is a failure and for obvious reasons. So I want to, one, did you guys see his press conference? And I'll start with you, JR. And if you did, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I saw it, and I thought he handled himself well. I think he said the right things because the points that he made were right on point. He made the point about Michael Jordan playing how many years. He won only this. So that means that the rest of the 9 years were failures? No, they weren't failures. You're still working to get to a point. You're putting pieces together to be that dynasty team. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
So I think that and he made the same parity to work. You go to work, do you get it raised every year? Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. Does that mean you're a failure the times you don't? Or could it, to me, I'm thinking to myself, it could possibly mean we didn't make enough money this year. You're not going to get a raise. So it's I understand what the other players are saying. You want to win every year, but guess what? There's 32 other teams in the league. You're not going to win every year. So
Freddie, you agree with JR?
I agree with JR. I actually saw so I didn't see his press conference in person when it occurred, but I actually watched it, about 2 hours ago, and without even knowing this was going to be a topic. I agree 100% with what Giannis is saying. The biggest takeaway that I had was, to his point, was this is a process, it's a step, and I think he said something like, okay, the Milwaukee Bucks from 1950 something until a couple years ago when they won their first championship, was it a failure or what? Something, I'm paraphrasing. I think he was spot on, and I think he was accurate. I think a lot of people in the media that I saw, Stephen A. Smith's response to it, his retort, was like, oh well, Michael Jordan would say those other years was a failure. Kobe would say those years was a failure. However, you got to look at it. Those guys played in an era, started their careers in an era to where it was, you could probably view things as a failure. Is the year a failure? I wouldn't say it's a failure. I would say it's disappointing to have the number 1 seed in the East and the mishaps that they had, with the coaching errors and him getting hurt in 11 minutes into the first quarter of the game 1. I would say it's a disappointment. A failure, no. I wouldn't say it was a failure. So I agree with Giannis.
I like some of his points, but I think at the end of the day, the coach in me would call it a failure. And I'm not saying he's a failure. I'm saying the season is a failure only because, and not because you didn't win it all. You're the best record. You're the 1 seed in the East, and you playing a team that had to do a playing game to get in. To me, when I look at goals and whether this was work or anywhere else, if I could parlay this into what we do on the job, we failed. It doesn't mean that we're bad people. It doesn't mean that we are failures, but 100%. I got to go with Big Perk on this one. I think it is a failure. And Miami is somewhat beat up. Their number 3 guy is out. You know what I mean? They lost Victor Oladipo in the game before the end. And oh, by the way, in this last game, you had a 16-point lead in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. You gave that up. That to me is failure. And I just think I love Giannis. I think he's the face in the future of the league. But I think when you lose that type of series, different story if we're talking about Eastern Conference Finals or NBA championship. But we talked about this before, JR, about these 1-8 matchups where the 8 has a sub 500 record and realistically on paper shouldn't even be in the playoffs. And I'm not no shade against, Jimmy Buckets in Miami, but looking at it, I saw that Giannis was struggling with the question. I do appreciate the complete answer that he gave, but I don't agree with all of his points. Sticking with that just for a second, can we just say, how well Jimmy Buckets has been playing? You know what I mean? Has he been lights out for them? I think a tip of the cap. I do think Freddie kind of hinted on it a little bit about Bud and coaching. I think Spo out coached Bud, but I really think that Jimmy. I mean, the shot to get to overtime. I mean,
yes,
these things that he's doing, he's just willing his team. Now, will they get past who they playing? The Knicks, Freddie?
Knicks, the Knicks.
Will they get past Knicks? I don't know. I mean, I wasn't even full disclosure. I wasn't even watching Knicks Cleveland. Didn't care who did what there. So I just want to say congrats to Jimmy Buckets. One of the other things, one of you guys just mentioned, I forget which one. You just talked about Stephen A. Smith. He's coming under a lot of fire right now. I think rightfully so, but I want to get your opinion because he went on air basically suggesting that, Kawhi Leonard should just retire. And every player that I heard comment on it basically has fried his ass. So I'm going to try to remain neutral. I know I struggle with that sometimes. Freddie, did you see or understand what Stephen A. said? Do you agree with him and or the responses that he's been getting?
Stephen A., in my opinion, and I'm not speaking for Stephen A. Stephen A., we would love to have you on the show anytime you want to show up, But I think Stephen A. is speaking from the standpoint of the financial investments the Clippers have put into Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Yep, guess what? We all know people can get hurt at any given time or whatever, but these are guys that since they've been together with the Clippers, they've been hurt every year in the playoffs. So I understand his perspective, and then on the player side, they're going to support each other, for the money and all that stuff. That's what the players are going to do. They're going to do anything to support each other to get more money and more money for each other.
The other aspect is that this guy's getting paid a lot of money and he's able to sit down whenever he wants to. Is that something that might spread to the rest of the league? You know what I'm saying? So he's setting precedents right now. Steve, I think Steve is just like Fox News. People say what they say. They get paid. They get paid to stir up stuff. He may have come back and had second thoughts and said something, but that's what he gets paid to do. To make observations and say them. And if he can't, there's an issue. There's a problem with that.
I just don't think I get Freddie's thing about the two perspectives. I'm saying Stephen A. isn't qualified to say that. He's not the business person. If Steve Ballmer wants to say that, okay. But Stephen A., I think, is talking for the likes and the clicks and the attention until he gets fried. He wants to be the player's best friend until he steps over. But I thought what he said, he was wrong. I think of all the people, and I listen to a lot of them, I think if you get an opportunity to go online and watch what J.J. Redick said, and I'm not a J.J. Redick fan, I think he encapsulated it perfectly. You've never played a professional day of sports in your life. Just be careful what you say. Before we roll out, let me check with the guys. JR, you got something to say today?
Nah, man, I'm good.
Yeah, I got nothing to say. Freddie, you got something to say?
Yeah, this transfer portal stuff in college football and this NIL stuff, it is really disheartening. And I don't have a problem with players monetizing, but at some point, the NCAA, you got to step in and there has to be some sort of policy regarding how you do things.
Appreciate that, sir. I got something to say today too. I'm gonna try to leave us on a good news story. If you have not looked or read the story on Drew Maggi, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I need you to look that up. That's Maggi. This is a 33-year-old who was called up by the Pittsburgh Pirates this week after 13 years in the minor leagues. So just so you understand, I'm talking about that's 1,155 games in the minor leagues. He got called up and played in his first game on Wednesday. I think it's a testament to hard work. If you get a chance to watch his story, ESPN covered it. What he said after Wednesday night's game is spot on. He could have given up at any point in time. What other sport are you going to come in? He got drafted at 20 years old and has been on multiple minor league teams, grinding. They show you the video of his minor league coach telling him, and they show you the video of him showing up, to play in Pittsburgh. It's a very inspiring story about, not quitting. And I think it's one that everybody should take it, just take with all the negative stuff that's going on right now. Just take a minute and look at that story with Drew Maggi and the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think you will be inspired. So that's all we got time for this week. We do appreciate you guys rocking with us. We try to say that every week because it means a lot to us, especially if you're watching us on YouTube or checking us out on your drive to work, or you going and doing some errands or whatnot on the podcast. Until next week, we look forward to seeing you guys. Everybody have a great weekend. Stay safe. We're out.
Peace.